Another week of me again. We got Hutch is back next week because I have a game that I have to work that week. But we're back again this week with another A Look Inside series. You're gonna hear that like for the next 8 weeks at this point. The off season slowly gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and the season inches ever so closer. Today we have Bob Lung on our show. If you don't know who he is, you clearly haven't watched any other podcast, apparently, over the last 2 to 3 weeks, because from what I've heard, he's been on anything and everything that has to do with fantasy football, and he's going to tell you a lot about some really awesome expo that I think I've heard of a few dozen times that's going to happen in the middle of August. So stay tuned for that. Welcome in to No Punt Intended. Welcome in to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo, and joining me, as always, Joshua Hudson and Ryan Weiss. And for the first time on the show, but not the first time on any other show in this universe, Bob Lung. Bob, how you doing?
Doing great. This is the first one for today, though, so congratulations.
There we go.
Take that as an honor. Thank you, Bob.
I think the fantasy community has seen me more than my wife has seen me over the last 2 weeks.
Is it a bad thing? Yeah, walk the line, like Johnny Cash.
I would say she was watching, but I'd be lying.
Well, thank you, Bob, for joining us. We have today Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants, and the San Francisco 49ers. It's a trio of rivalries here is what I'm seeing. Cowboys, Giants, obviously. Cowboys, 49ers. Obviously, and there's no relation to the Giants and the 49ers besides they play on opposite coasts of America. That's really the only correlation those two have. But we will start here with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll run through the upsides all the way down to the IDPs, and then we'll jump in specifics on some of these guys. Bob is kind of going to direct the conversation on who he wants to go for. But let's start here with the ever so underachieving Dallas Cowboys. I'd say that they might go 12-5 this year, but I'd be lying to you because they're going to go 8-9. It doesn't matter if Dak Prescott and the entire team is healthy; they're going to be 8-9. Book it, like literally whatever the Vegas odds are on Dallas going 8-9. Bet it right now. That's you can guarantee they have 8 wins, no more. Upside, Amari Cooper. Why? Why? Why are we putting Amari Cooper as the upside?
Maybe that's one guy we're going to talk about today.
Fantastic. Okay. Downside, Dak Prescott. I'm going to guess because he seems to be going really high for some reason. I've seen he's going before Lamar Jackson. That's kind of shocking to me.
Yeah.
Trust fall, Ezekiel Elliott looking for a bounce back year after a not so stellar year last year. Rookie to watch, Josh looked at me, or he texted us and said, should we put Micah Parsons as the rookie to watch? And I was like, oh my God, are we putting an IDP as the rookie to watch? And then I think I looked at Dallas's roster. Did they draft anyone? Like, did they draft a rookie?
Like a fifth-round wide receiver.
Yeah, Simi Fehoko, something like that. I can't remember.
The fact that you can't pronounce his name shows why we put Micah Parsons as
there you go. Right.
The sleeper, Blake Jarwin. He's like tight end 25 as far as I know. If Dalton Schultz can do what he did last year, I think Blake Jarwin can blow that out of the water. And IDP, it was going to be Micah Parsons, but it's Randy Gregory. The team sucks. Like, just stay away from Dallas's defense. Their defense, it was literally the third worst defense ever in NFL history last year. If that tells you anything of how bad this defense is, they didn't improve it. They got Micah Parsons. They didn't improve the
Browns
secondary.
Scored 49 points. That tells you something right there.
Hey, they got Keanu Neal for 3 games.
He's not even listed. Hold on. He's listed as a weak side linebacker behind Micah Parsons. He's not
I had
even
no
listed
idea.
as a safety on the depth chart.
Wow. That's
Why?
weird.
Their safeties are garbage in Dallas. it blew my mind when I saw that in the depth chart. But anyways, I guess we'll start with Amari Cooper because Bob immediately raised his hand. And Bob, just so you know, I think our listeners know, I think Amari Cooper, he's not bad. I just can't stand him because there's one game where he'll have 50 and another game where he doesn't even care about the sport and job he's playing. Like it doesn't
you
make
mean
sense.
like consistency?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, great lead in.
I hate Amari Cooper for that reason. That's why I hate drafting him as my wide receiver 1. But why do you like Amari Cooper?
Well, first off, until last year, we nicknamed, well, I shouldn't say I nicknamed him. Tommy Moe, if you guys know, at Tommy Moe out there in fantasy, he nicknamed him, and I've taken it to heart and put it in my magazine every year. We call him the fantasy locust because he basically gets on your team and then just eats you alive because of his inconsistency. Until last year, when last year he actually for the first time in his history had a higher rank in consistency than he did in total points.
Boom.
Prior to that, he was 10th in total points. 2019, 10th in total points, 21st in consistency. 2018, 18th and 41st in consistency. That's the Amari Cooper we really know.
There you go.
But last year, 15th in total points, 75% consistent, ranked him 11th. Now, remember, he did that without Dak for most of the season. So when Dak was actually on the field, he was ridiculous.
Wasn't he like wide receiver 3 in
51 targets, 37 receptions, 401 yards, and 1 touchdown.
And depending on where you look at scoring, he's between the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 3 during those weeks in fantasy. So
right, which is basically what the consistency thing is tracking. So I'm in because, believe it or not, for the first time ever, his ADP is not in the top 12, which it normally is. And I always go, nope, don't want him, too inconsistent, don't want any part of him. This year now, I can get him as my possible wide receiver 2. And like you said, this defense is pitiful. They have to throw the ball 80 times a game, just like they did it against the Browns, because they have to be able to keep up. I mean, I'm all in on Dak. I'm all in on Cooper, Lamb, not as much Gallup. But, yeah, I mean, why would you not? Because they're going to have to throw the ball 50 times a game to keep in these games. And Zeke's probably going to benefit as well coming out of the backfield. So I'm in on Amari Cooper. I never really am, but I wanted to chime in because I wanted some folks to probably pass out while they're drinking, watching this. Go, wait a minute, Bob Lung is in the
Bob, Mr.
Cooper.
Consistency likes Amari Cooper.
Who he calls the fantasy locust is all of a sudden in. And it's happened. Mike Evans was inconsistent for years. I hated him. Called him the poster boy for inconsistency. Now Mike Evans is much more consistent. So it can happen. People can change. And I see Amari Cooper continuing that change again this year.
So if we're going based off outlier years, Ezekiel Elliott shouldn't be drafted where he's being drafted. Then I just want to put that out there. If we're going off outlier years, consistently Ezekiel Elliott was a top 5 running back, but he sucked last year. Consistently, Amari Cooper couldn't play consistently, but last year was an outlier. So again,
But was it an outlier considering they brought in a new coaching staff?
And we had saw improvement.
And I think that's a big deal there.
And we saw improvement in 2019 with Dak as well. Not quite what we saw in 2020, but like Bob said, he went from the 40s to, I think if I remember what Bob said, the 20s in consistency in 2019, and then jumped up into the top 10 in 2020. Right. We're seeing improvement with improved quarterback play. It's almost like Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Derek Carr or something.
Oh, because of the Raiders. I'm like, Derek Carr wasn't on the Cowboys last year. What are you talking about? So very
catch up, Joe. Come on.
I'm like Andy Dalton threw for the Cowboys last year, and Ben DiNucci.
And then there's that he wasn't even doing it with Dak last year, but we saw what he could be with Dak. I can't add to anything Bob said because those are basically my notes too. I put out an Amari Cooper article for Football Guys. The only thing I'll just add to, because Bob was exactly right on this, he's going off the boards as the wide receiver 15. It's the first time you've been able to get him at the proper cost in who knows how long. And if you're someone who wants to go running back early, Amari Cooper is the perfect, arguably wide receiver 1 if you want to go 3 running backs in a row. Definitely wide receiver 2 if you're going to go balanced and go 2 RB, 2 wide receiver. So
I I want to play this game because I think this isn't, it's my favorite game. It's my favorite game, and it's back. Bob, it's called Would You Rather. It's the game that we invented on this show. It was never played before. No one ever had heard of this game until I invented it on this show.
Jessica Alba. Oh, this is not how this is.
Okay. I love it.
That's it. Joe is 22 years old and probably has no idea who Jessica Alba is.
Jessica Alba is. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here.
Play the game, Joe. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So,
Cardi
Bob,
B.
how it works.
No.
We play the ADP. So who would you rather have? And we'll go here as your wide receiver 1. Let's assume, it's back end of the third, early fourth. So you already have 2 running backs and you're choosing in the third or the fourth round. You have all running backs on your team. So this is your wide receiver 1. So we're going to go 2 above Cooper's ADP. And this is according to Fantasy Pros. He's 14 on Fantasy Pros. So again, just one higher than what Ryan said, but he's going in the beginning of the 5th round at 41. Okay. So at 12, would you rather have Allen Robinson as the wide receiver 12 or Amari Cooper as the wide receiver 14? Bob, I just want a name. Don't even need an explanation. Bob.
I'll take Cooper.
Okay. Josh.
I'll take A-Rob.
Ryan.
Cooper.
Allen Robinson seems a tiny bit more. I don't really know. I don't tend to draft either of these guys, but I would probably go Allen Robinson. The aforementioned Mike Evans or Amari Cooper. Bob.
I'm gonna go Cooper just because that offense has to throw so much, and if the running game is working for the Bucs, they don't have to throw as much, and Evans may have those down games. So I'm gonna stay with Cooper.
Josh.
Oh, I'm going Cooper 100% here. I think Antonio Brown's going to be the wide receiver you want in Tampa this year.
Ryan.
You said Chris Godwin's name wrong, but Amari Cooper.
Tampa's defense is too good, and Dallas is going to let up 35 points a game.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah,
and still lose.
Both are easily going over 1,000 yards this year.
Oh yeah, that's not even a question. No, that's not even a question.
Cooper may hit it by week 9.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
All right. So Cooper's 14. At 15, would you rather Amari Cooper at 14 or Julio Jones in his completely healed hamstring because he became a Tennessee Titan? Bob.
Oh, it's not even close. Cooper by a mile. I'm not feeling Julio.
Josh.
Same. Cooper.
Ryan.
Amari Cooper.
Guys.
Target volume.
Guys. Did you not know that the Tennessee Titans are winning the Super Bowl this year? How do you not choose Julio Jones? God, they only got it for a 2nd-round pick. No, Amari
Did
Cooper.
all of a sudden they became a non-running team?
Yeah. Immediately. Julio
Jones, we're not going to run Derrick Henry at all. Now we're just going to throw the shit out of the ball. Okay, fine.
Julio Jones signing benefits A.J. Brown more than it does Julio Jones.
Indeed.
I agree with that.
Yep.
I would agree with that.
A.J. Brown moved up to my wide receiver 1 after I redid my projections. So
because he's no longer getting double teamed.
Like 1 overall or like 1 to 12?
No, he moved to my 1 overall in standard, not PPR. So
okay.
So I don't like Amari Cooper, but with literally Dallas's defense is so bad, they have to throw.
Tennessee's not much better.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
But I'm sorry. Was Tennessee the 3rd worst defense in NFL history last season? I don't think they were.
They could be.
They could be this season. They could be this season. But I trust Dak Prescott's arm more than I do Ryan Tannehill's arm.
Yes, but whose leg do you trust better? That's really the key question when it comes
to Dak
Prescott. Oh, I thought it was the rather have. I'm sorry.
I trust Dak Prescott's bionic leg more than I do Ryan Tannehill's leg. Let's just put that out there.
All right.
My friend has a metal rod in his leg, and the doctor said it's stronger than it ever would have been. So I trust Dak Prescott's leg.
Let's do it.
Okay, and then the last one, Amari Cooper or Robert Woods, who was a wide receiver 1 last year, might I add. Bob.
You know what I do? I like Robert Woods a lot, but I think I still have to go Cooper. I just don't see them. I think they're going to go Cam Akers a lot. I think it's going to be a lot like Tennessee, where they're going to run the ball a lot more with Cam Akers to not have to put all the pressure on Stafford in the offense and the passing game. So I'm still going to go Cooper. Like you said, I just think they're going to have to throw a ball a ton.
Josh.
Bob, I'm curious to see where Woods fell in your consistency rankings, because I think Cooper will have a better overall year, but I think Woods will ultimately be more consistent of the two, if that makes sense.
Woods has been pretty consistent, definitely the last few years. And then I'm scrolling as I'm talking. So last year he was only 63%. So he ranked 25th, even though he was 12th in total points.
Okay.
His 2018 season was his best year when he was 88%, but the last 2 years for the Rams, he's been 60 and 63. Solid wide receiver 3, 2 at best, but I'm not sure I can move him up, even though, like I said, he was ranked 12th in total points, and he's been 10th, 14th, and 12th. So total points, he's always been up there, but the consistency has dropped off. We can blame Jared Goff. We can blame the whole Rams offense in general. But yeah, and maybe with Stafford, he picks that back up. I could easily see him being in the 70 percentile, which will put him more top 15. But I don't know if he'll be ahead of Cooper. It'll be close. But
that's my thing. I think Cooper has more upside than Woods. I just, again, you're really, at the end of the day, I think you're talking about a what's the word I'm looking for? The higher efficiency targets with Woods versus what you would get with Cooper.
He'll
get
7 targets and catch 5 for 70, maybe a touchdown. They'll throw Cooper 15 times, and that'll be the first half, and then he'll catch 4 of those. And then the second half, he'll do another 15 and catch 4. So it'll end with 8. It looks like a great day.
Yeah.
So something to add on Woods too. He gets a lot of end arounds, and he's productive on those end arounds.
Yeah.
So something to add in. Ryan, who are you taking?
Oh, Cooper. I love Woods, but I'm ready to be hurt again with Amari Cooper. So
Robert Woods stands.
It's like a crazy ex-girlfriend. You just
really
keep coming back, right? You just
Ryan loves toxic relationships. Loves toxic relationships. Big fan of them. Is Marlia watching? I hope
I've been dating my wife since I was 16 years old, but I love toxic relationships.
Ryan has been in a toxic relationship for the past 24 years.
There you go.
So you're like Britney Spears? Is that the key?
Yes.
I guess. Just got to shave my head.
She's toxic.
Ryan is soon gonna leave Marlia and
stop the sentence now.
You just stop, Ryan.
And write an Olivia Rodrigo type album about how toxic his relationship was.
If I leave my wife, I have to get a real job again. We're not playing those games.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. Nobody wants that.
Exactly.
Ryan's got the bag set right now. He's all good. All right, moving into the next team, the New York Giants. I love the beginning of our Look Inside series, right? I'm excited. We're getting closer to the season, and then I realize we have to talk about literal dog shit for like 5 weeks. And it's like this isn't fun. So I mean, it's bad. It's bad when we're sitting here saying the upside is Sterling Shepard. It's bad when we're sitting here saying that.
Or Evan Ingram, either one.
Yeah, either one. Josh, you have Shepard. Ryan, you have Evan Ingram. Downside, Ryan, Kenny Golladay, Josh, Evan Ingram, because, of course. Trust fall, Saquon Barkley. Talk about a guy whose leg I don't trust. Rookie to watch, Kadarius Toney. 20th overall pick, baby. Who cares about Rashad Bateman? Who cares? Why would you draft him when you could draft Kadarius Toney? Elijah Moore. Fuck Elijah Moore. Why would you draft him when you could have Kadarius Toney, elite punt returner from the University of Florida? Sleeper, Darius Slayton. He's wide receiver 82, so he's free. Yes. It's literally free. I put him as my sleeper last year, and I hated myself. Actually, no, I had Daniel Jones as my sleeper last year. Don't draft Giants players. That's the moral of the story.
No, yeah.
Don't draft Giants players. If you're going to, though, draft Blake Martinez if you're playing an IDP league, because I just learned last year he topped 300 points again. He did it in 2020, did it in 2019. I have him for 325 again this year. Give him one more game to stay healthy and gather more tackles. Big Blake Martinez fan. I guess we'll start with. Let's start with Kenny Golladay, because obviously new face, new place, not as good of a quarterback as he had in Detroit. So Bob, we'll start here. I know Ryan has him as a downside. How do you feel about Kenny Golladay, who according to Fantasy Pros is going wide receiver 22? So you can technically get him as your wide receiver 2.
Right. And to be honest with you, I have been doing some mock drafts, and I have been drafting him as my wide receiver 2 because he's so talented. And, and people are like, but he's got Daniel Jones. And I'm like, yeah, but Terry McLaurin was fantasy relevant with freaking Dwayne Haskins. So it can be done. I mean, Allen Robinson was, very fantasy relevant with Mitch Trubisky. So
and Blake Bortles.
Yeah, and Blake Bortles. So again, I think it's really just the price value. Like, how do you not? I mean, because you have to assume they're going to throw the ball to him a ton. They paid him a ton of money. Why would you not throw him to him? There isn't much else around them. Like you said, Shepard and all these guys. I know Evan Ingram's going to have a banner year because I'm not going to draft him at all because I had him in 40 of my 43 leagues last year, and his son of a bitch burned my ass. So I refuse to draft. So he'll have a huge year. Everybody go draft him.
There you go.
Bob Lung logic.
There you go. Right. Yeah.
It's not bad logic.
It's bad logic. Don't do that. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm so down. But yeah, I don't see how you can't draft Kenny Golladay as your wide receiver 2 in round 6. I mean, why? He's got to put up at least solid wide receiver 2 numbers. Even if he's value, it's still a value, right? I mean, he could go 1, but I would be surprised. But like I said, McLaurin was a 1. Robinson's been a 1 with terrible quarterbacks. It can be done. And let's be honest, at some point, Jones has to be a little bit better. But that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
I think the thing that saves Kenny Golladay is, I don't know his number off the top of my head, but he's unbelievable in 50-50 balls. Like,
yeah, right.
He's just stupid.
I actually have that number for you, Joe.
I know you do, and that's why I set you up for it, because I know you love Kenny Galladay's contested catch rate, so go ahead.
Yeah, between 2018 and 2019, and really, if you even want to include 2020, he has over 40 contested catches, which is, I believe, top 3 in the NFL.
There was one game last year. He was 6 catches on 6 targets for like 120 yards. All of those catches were 50-50 balls. They were all contested.
How many catches does he have on balls that are thrown 10 yards over his head out of bounds?
I don't have that answer.
Matt Stafford.
But what I do know is that Daniel Jones is actually a pretty good deep ball passer when he's not fumbling it or throwing it to the other team.
Or tripping over his own.
So there's that. I mean,
I know it's easier to give Daniel Jones a hard time. I think my biggest issue.
I'm with you.
My biggest issue with Golladay, because you're right, if you just take it as what it is, how do you not take him as your wide receiver 2? I think it's because, and I don't know that we're going to jump right back into Joe's completely invented game, but the people going around him, I would just rather have all of them at least on my board 100%. To where it's the same reason I like Ingram and Josh hates Ingram. Josh thinks Galladay is going to take touchdowns away from Ingram. I think Ingram's going to take touchdowns away from Galladay. The Giants wide receivers only scored 8 touchdowns last year. I think it's just, nothing about that seems great for me. He should see volume, but Sterling Shepard has been an 8 target per game guy when he's with Daniel Jones. So how much volume is there going to be really? They should have to throw a lot, but their defense isn't that bad. And Saquon's back. There's a lot going against him that wasn't necessarily working against him when he was in Detroit.
Yep. Asking Ingram to start scoring touchdowns, I just don't think is going to happen. Like, that's why they went out.
He scored 7 or 8 his rookie year, though. I mean, it could happen.
6 his rookie year and has done nothing to build upon that at all. He scored 1 touchdown last year.
Wow. And you can't say
he's the first. According to Fantasy Data's rankings right now, he is the first. Evan Ingram's the first tight end with over 100 targets since 2014 to not finish as a tight end 1.
Wow.
Yeah. So what does that tell you? I mean, we all talk about it all the time. Touchdowns for tight ends matters. And, in our Giants preview that I wrote up, which is on the website, www.clubfantasyffl.com, feel free to check that out. That's what I talk about. Like, if you add 1 touchdown to his total, he's tight end 11. You add 2 touchdowns, you add 3 touchdowns. He keeps moving up the ladder. But when you bring in a guy that we've seen have double-digit touchdowns, who, as we talked about earlier, has one of the highest contested catch rates in the NFL, that's where they're looking. We talked early last season that Jason Garrett was trying to fit the square peg of Evan Ingram in the round hole that is the Jason Garrett role in his offense. Who fits that better, Evan Ingram or Kyle Rudolph? Like, I know that Evan Ingram's going to get targets because they're going to split him out wide. They're going to run him more as a slot receiver or running him outside because that's where he excels as a receiver, because he sucks as a blocker. So maybe if they start running more 12 personnel, you might see these two on the field. But when they're getting close inside the 20, I don't see a scenario where you're going to see Evan Ingram on the field. It's going to be Kyle Rudolph. And he averages almost 5 touchdowns per season over his career. Like, that's the guy that you want when it comes to touchdowns in this offense. It's not Evan Ingram to me.
Jason Garrett's too used to white, unathletic tight ends, and that's why he's too used.
Just
to
gonna go to his safe.
Always got to go the race card. Yeah. There you go.
It's not the race. It's literally he had Jason Witten and Dalton Schultz. Like, those are the 2 most unathletic people in the NFL, not named kickers and punters. So, like, it's ridiculous.
When I drive with Jason Witten for Hall of Fame weekend, I'm going to tell him, I'm going to say,
there you go.
Listen. Witten, when he was like 25, had a little bit of agility in there. Jason Witten never burned anyone down the field or shook anyone out of their boots.
No, he just put him down.
He just put him down because he was so big. He's just giant. And if a safety tried to reach around him, it's like a baby trying to reach up to a 6-foot-tall man trying to steal a lollipop. Like, you can't do it. The baby's too small. So it's just pure size. And Kyle Rudolph is a brick wall of a human. He is huge. Right. So it's a good point there, Josh. And yes, of course, we're going to go to my would you rather. This is a very interesting would you rather because I see guys in like the 30s that I would rather have over Kenny Golladay. And Galladay's going wide receiver 22. So we're going to have some fun with this one. So wide receiver 22 is Kenny Golladay. Wide receiver 20, we're going second wide receiver because we talked about Golladay going around wide receiver 2 here. Would you rather have Cooper Kupp or Kenny Golladay, Bob?
Probably Cooper Kupp. I mean, his consistency's always been there. I mean, he was injured last year, so he kind of was up and down. But I think I would probably draft Kupp for sure ahead of Golladay.
Josh.
Golladay.
Ryan.
Kupp.
I am going to lean Kupp for the sole reason that Matt Stafford seemed to take a liking to Danny Amendola, and I think Cooper Kupp plays kind of that role for him.
So it's a race card.
I mean,
Bob has already caught on.
Guys.
Bob's taking it and running with it. He's catching on quick.
New England went from Wes Welker to Julian Edelman to Danny Amendola to Gunnar Olszewski. What do they all have in common?
Actually, it was Amendola before Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
Texture.
No, it was not.
Check when Amendola signed in New England.
Julian Edelman was a Patriot since 2009, you idiot. You arguing with me about this?
Yeah,
but I mean, Edelman just retired, and Amendola hasn't been there in ages. So wouldn't Amendola had to have come before Edelman?
No. What you guys? Are we really arguing this right now? This is like when
play the game.
So I tell you, Joe's a Patriots fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
yes. Joe is a Patriots fan.
Josh tried to tell me Levante David was drafted the same year as Miles Jack. Levante David is 31. Miles Jack is 26. He tried to tell me that.
No, I understand that. But the point that I'm getting at is, first off, they both started in 2009, right? But Edelman really didn't get going as the Patriots go-to until Amendola got there. So really, they started their Patriots career at the same time. If you really want to get technical.
Oh, okay. All right. This is
literally looking at their stats, Joe.
This is pissing me off. Started at the same time. Okay.
2013. That was Edelman's first big year in New England.
Okay.
That was the first year he had 100 catches. First year he topped 60 targets.
And I could tell you as a Patriots fan, Danny Amendola was garbage his first 3 years.
I'm not saying he wasn't.
Okay, so
I never said he wasn't. I'm just saying that they got going with the Patriots at the same time.
Ryan, if you want me to stop talking about this, tell Josh to stop being a moron. That's how the game. Thank you.
Back to your corners.
Jesus, moron, absolute moron. Why is he on this show? I want to skip 21 because it's Deontay Johnson just to spite Josh.
I would actually like to hear Bob's answer.
Yeah, that's the only answer I want to hear. Bob, yep. Deontay Johnson or Kenny Golladay?
Ooh.
Say Kenny Golladay. I'll send you like a signed jersey by anyone you want. I don't care who it is. I don't care how much money it is. I'll send it to you right now.
Kenny Golladay. No, I'm just kidding. Wow.
I do want to add to this. All three Pittsburgh wide receivers are going in the top 30 of wide receivers.
Right.
Just adding that in there.
It's because they all finished there last year. People are creatures of habit.
I think Deontay and Schuster will be up there. I don't think Claypool will.
Interesting.
His consistency wasn't strong enough to be there. Johnson's was. That's why I'm like really hesitant. I probably would.
This is why we love this game.
Yeah.
I am going to say Kenny Golladay, and here's why. Because one, there are 3 very good wide receivers in Pittsburgh. The Browns defense is much better this year. The Ravens defense is always good. So the Bengals are the only ones that really suck. The Giants get to play against the Cowboys twice, the Redskins twice, and the Eagles twice. That could be a lot more volume, a lot more consistency out of Golladay than Johnson. So it's really close, but I could talk myself into Golladay over Johnson. And I know that, and that's my legitimate reason.
That's fair. It's wrong, but it's fair.
Yeah.
We love peer pressure. I would probably go Deontay Johnson once he figures out how to put stickum on his hands, and we can fix those drops.
Right.
But
the other thing you have to remember with Deontay Johnson is that we have for him to be better than Golladay, Ben has to play all season.
Yeah,
that may not be that
very true.
The contingency plan is Ben Roethlisberger's right arm. That's the contingency plan. Deontay Johnson.
And that's another reason why I think I would take Golladay, because that could happen. Big Ben going down has a lot more potential than Jones.
And even if Jones goes down, could the backup be that much worse?
Well, that's true. The guy from row 3, seat 4 could come down and still be all right.
Is Colt McCoy still the backup?
No, it's the guy with the neck, Glennon.
Oh,
the guy with the neck.
Everyone has a neck, Ryan.
Oh, there we go with the race card again.
Not like Mike Glennon. Not everyone.
You're not wrong. He is like.
So now we're bringing aliens into this. I see how it is.
No, he is a giraffe. He is a confirmed giraffe.
All right, 22.
Plaxico Burress, like type.
Yes.
Burress.
Yes. Okay.
The Giants love their necks.
There you go.
22 is Kenny Golladay. 23. Would you rather Tyler Lockett or Kenny Golladay, Bob?
That I would go Kenny Golladay. Lockett's consistency just.
I said I knew where Bob was going with that.
Yeah, I can't. Lockett is just every year he's one of those poster boys for inconsistencies. Like it'll be top 12, top 15, and then it'll be like 40% consistent. Just kills me. Yeah, I can't do Lockett anymore.
Josh.
Oh, Golladay, easy.
Ryan.
Lockett, easy for me.
Ryan's a big Tyler Lockett fan.
I
wouldn't draft either of them, but I would go Golladay. I would stay away from both of them, but if I'm there, Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay or wide receiver 24, DJ Moore, Bob.
Golladay. I'm not sold on Sam Darnold not seeing ghosts in Carolina.
Gotta love it. Josh.
Golladay, touchdown upside.
Ryan.
You finally got me. I'd go Golladay in this situation.
I mean,
I also don't like DJ Moore is, I guess, the issue. So I'm not. I think I was saying this last year. They feel like, I know they're way different size and build. They feel like the same person on the football field to me. Galladay just makes up for touchdowns, what Moore makes up for in receptions. So
I'm fine with DJ Moore. Honestly, I don't know why everyone's hating. I would go DJ Moore in this instance. I think Bridgewater isn't that much better than Darnold. So if Sam Darnold checks down to DJ Moore 5 times more than Teddy Bridgewater did, DJ Moore's a top 15 wide receiver, because there was 5 times where Bridgewater didn't check down to DJ Moore and it was a 60-yard touchdown. So,
there's that. Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to remember last year they didn't have McCaffrey to check down to at all, and they still didn't throw to Moore that much.
Exactly.
In fact, Robbie Anderson had a better fantasy year than DJ Moore. That's scary.
Teddy Two Gloves loves the deep ball, which brings me to my next guy, who is wide receiver 28, whereas Galladay is wide receiver 22. Who would you rather have, Cortland Sutton or Kenny Galladay as your wide receiver 2, Bob?
As long as Drew Lock is in Denver, it's going to be Kenny Galladay.
Josh?
Literally, Linda posted this on Twitter today.
Did she?
And I said, yeah. And I said, I have them like back to back in terms of like stats outside of touchdowns. I would lean Galladay based on the touchdown upside, but based on price, give me Sutton.
Ryan?
It's Galladay for me. I'm just not sold on the big Sutton return, mainly because I disagree with Josh, and I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be very good. So
nope.
I like Cortland Sutton, so I'm all aboard the Cortland Sutton train. I drafted him last year, and he screwed me over because of his injuries. So here's a big bounce back here, Cortland. And go Ponies, because he's an SMU receiver, and all of them are good. Just waiting for James Prochet's breakout year in Baltimore, or if he ever gets traded elsewhere. Blows my mind. They have absolute garbage and fire. Like it's their wide receiver room sucks, and James Prochet can't get a damn snap, and he has some of the best hands on the team. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Blows my mind. All right, there's another guy here that is wide receiver 31. There are 9 spots difference between each other. Kenny Galladay or T. Higgins? Bob?
yeah, he actually popped up on my list too. So I'm glad you brought him up.
Well, I'm on footballguys.com, and they have Higgins at 26. But I think Cincinnati's situation is going to be way too much like Pittsburgh's situation, where you've got 3 very good wide receivers, a bad defense, and a good quarterback. And I think they're all going to kind of eat into each other's production. So I think just because I think Galladay should see so much more target share on his team, I think I'll still go Galladay. But I do love Higgins, and Tyler Boyd at wide receiver 33, I think is even a hell of a deal.
Josh?
I mean, I have Galladay ranked higher, but again, it boils down to price point for me, and I still think Higgins is going to have a great year. So I have zero issue taking Higgins.
Ryan?
Yeah, T. Higgins. It's just Joe Burrow over Daniel Jones for me. So.
I'd rather have T. Higgins as my wide receiver too. Like I would have no problem taking T. Higgins in the 6th or 7th round.
I'm shocked at how low his ADP is. I'm interested to see if that comes up when more casuals start drafting. So
potentially.
I mean, it's rookie fever. I mean, everybody has it. I mean, everybody thinks that Jamar Chase is just going to be like that guy, and I think he's going to be good. But I still would much rather trust Higgins this year over Chase.
Well, even still, I mean, if in my projections, I think I have Higgins as 3rd in PPR amongst that team, and I would still rather have Higgins. It's just I know what Boyd's going to get, and I love Jamar Chase.
Oh, I have Higgins ranked higher than all 3 of them in my projections.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to see in a ton. I mean, I don't think you'll have anybody with Boyd at 1. I think it's going to be just a rundown between Chase. And it's funny because it'll probably be the other one who ends up in 3rd every time. So,
yeah.
It's definitely an interesting wide receiver. You guys have already talked about
I have Boyd 1.
Go ahead.
Do you?
Okay.
So here's my ranks. This is in my tier draft.
He said, "Screw us, electronic spreadsheet," and brought out the whole damn paper.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I have Boyd at 25. I have Chase at 26, and I have Higgins at 35. Mostly just because I feel like Higgins, I think Higgins is the odd man out because I think Boyd is more, obviously a more veteran receiver. Burrow only really got to play with Higgins for half the year.
Yeah.
They were both very consistent when Burrow was on the field. But then, you bring in, my best friend from college is going to play now. So who's the odd man out? I'm going to go veteran and best friend and leave the guy out in the middle. And I think every game will be different. You'll have a game where Higgins will be the number one guy for the week. And then next week it'll be – so I think because of the fact, kind of like the Dallas situation, Bengals often their defense is so bad that they're going to have to throw the ball. Again, Burrow's going to have to throw the ball 40 times a game. And I think they'll all – you could easily see one of those scenarios we haven't had in a while. I think maybe the Rams from a few years ago when they had Woods and Kupp and – somebody else Emmanuel Sanders.
Yep.
They were all on the same team together. I think they were all top 25 or top 30.
Even last year, the Panthers had 3 and the Steelers had 3. I mean, I think you're going to start seeing
that. Three. Yeah, right. Steelers had 3 last year. So, it can be done, but I don't think any of them are going to be top 20 because they're all going to kind of just, like you said, game after game is going to be different. So
I agree.
Like I said, I think they're all very close. And if somebody says, well, I have, Higgins, Chase, and Boyd, okay, I get it. I'm not going to argue with you. I mean,
and if you're looking at value-based drafting, Boyd is likely to be the best value by far because you can get him 2 rounds later.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm doing some mock drafts, and I think I just took Boyd as my wide receiver 3 in round 8 or round 7. So,
yep.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd's wide receiver 3 is a great spot. But let's move into our last team of the night, the San Francisco 49ers, a team that's probably better than their record of 6-10 last year. Nick Bosa went down, obviously a quarterback carousel that they had, a tremendous amount of running back injuries last year, and they've really kind of shored up all of their issues. Their offensive line got hella better.
Yeah.
They drafted a couple running backs to make sure that they wouldn't be hurting in the backfield. They drafted a quarterback in top 3. They moved up to get Trey Lance. They really kind of plugged a lot of holes. Obviously, there's still more on the defense. I still don't trust their secondary, but when you have Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Javon Kinlaw, Dre Greenlaw, I mean, we talk about it with Washington. They didn't really need that great of a secondary when you have 5 first-round picks rushing the quarterback. You don't need a great secondary at that point because they're going to get to the quarterback in 2 seconds. So that could be the case with San Francisco this year. Upside, Ryan, you got Ayuk. Josh, you have Debo. Downside, Ryan, you have Raheem Mostert. Josh, you have George Kittle. Sorry, Stoner, if you're watching. Trust fall, Ryan, you have George Kittle. Guess we know who's on Stoner's good side today. Josh, you have Brandon Ayuk. My sleeper, Jalen Hurd. I think this is the 3rd straight year I've put you as my sleeper.
I'll say just like being hurt at this point.
Can we just stay healthy? Please stay healthy because you came in year 1 and everyone was like, yeah, Jalen Hurd should, get some time on the field. I'm like, great, let's, we'll throw him in there as a sleeper. Year 2, he was getting hyped up. He had a couple good plays in preseason. Hurt. Okay, Jalen, can you give me half a season? Half a season I'll be happy with at this point, but I didn't like anyone else on that roster as my sleeper. And then IDP, I just wanted to highlight someone outside of Fred Warner. Draft Fred Warner. That's a fairly simple and obvious thing to do. But Javon Kinlaw, I believe he's in his 2nd year. He's someone who's less obvious that could break out at the defensive tackle position. He had 97 points last year, which isn't anything amazing, but it's also nothing to scoff at. I have him for 155 this year. I could see him easily being inside the top 25 for defensive linemen. So eyes on Javon Kinlaw because he's an unbelievably athletic defensive tackle for his size. So someone to keep an eye on that is not named Fred Warner on that defense. I feel like we have to start with George Kittle, and I think the only thing that is going to come from Josh's side is his ADP is too high and he doesn't stay healthy. I feel like that's Josh's downside argument there.
It's part of it, but it's not the whole thing.
Fair.
Okay. Please.
Thank you, Bob.
Please give me the whole argument then, Josh. Why do you hate George Kittle?
Well, I'm gonna call out first off a tweet from Matthew Betts, who was on with us a couple weeks ago, when he's talking about Kittle's injuries, and basically, so 2017 ankle sprain, 2018 AC joint sprain, 2019 hyperextended knee, 2020 also a hyperextended knee, and then the cuboid fracture. And Betts claims that he's more unlucky versus being injury prone, and a lot of it's because it's come as a blocker. So I said, okay, let's test this theory. So I went through and I kind of started looking at where he's lining up each year. So in 2017, 36% of his snaps, he was either run blocking or pass blocking. In 2018, that number jumped to 43.4%. 2019, it spiked at 54.4%. And then in 2020, it was 47.2%. I don't think any of us is arguing the fact that the best all-around tight end in the game is George Kittle. He's elite as a blocker, and we know what he's capable of from a receiving standpoint, correct? But we don't get points in fantasy football for blocking. And if you're staying in line and blocking and it's getting you hurt, you're not producing fantasy points.
Correct.
And at his current ADP as a result, that becomes an issue because you're paying a high price for him to run routes less than 50% of the time, or really right around the 50% of the time mark. Okay, this is a team that is going to run the football. They drafted a quarterback who had 1,100 rushing yards his 1 year as a starter at North Dakota State. They're going to run, and he's going to be blocking. So a lot of his receptions and receiving totals are going to be more scheme-based, which is what you see a lot with like an AJ Brown. Like you're hoping for that high efficiency, right? Well, since 2017, when Kittle came into the league, he's 5th in yards per reception among all tight ends, and he's 2nd in yards per target. So yes, those are very good numbers, but you're banking on efficiency. And when you couple that with his inability to stay healthy because he keeps getting hurt as a blocker, that runs a very large risk at his current ADP. I'm not saying he can't live up to it. I'm saying now the odds are being stacked against him as a result, and it makes him more risky when I can draft someone like Travis Kelce or Darren Waller, who I know are going to produce as receivers because they're not spending 50% of the time blocking.
I just want to throw in one quick thing, and then I'll let Bob talk. So you just broke down how often he was blocking stats from 2018 through now?
2017 to now, yes.
Perfect. Did you happen to look at, you're claiming we're not getting fantasy points for blocking. We're not. Did you happen to look at his fantasy points per game over those points?
Didn't much care.
16,
because he's not staying healthy.
16,
1 year, 2 years, he had 1,000 yards? What were the other 2 years? But here's the thing, too. The last 2 years, they've spent high draft capital on wide receivers.
But he's not losing fantasy points while he's blocking. He just has to stay on the field. So if injuries,
okay, but those years when he was elite, he didn't have a Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk had almost 15 fantasy points per game last year.
So
now you go into this season with George Kittle on top of Brandon Ayuk, on top of Deebo Samuel.
He doesn't have to outscore Brandon Ayuk.
This is a very small pie for 3 very good players.
He doesn't have to outscore Brandon Ayuk. He has to outscore the pile of crap that is fantasy tight end, and he's going to do that with no problem. Over his career, before he even became the man, he averages 13.
But you're saying that he's going to do that before he gets hurt because he's blocking for Raheem Mostert or Trey Sermon or whatever running back that Kyle Shanahan feels like he wants to try out this week.
I'm not worried about the injuries.
George Kittle last year was on pace for his 2nd most targets, his most receptions, his 2nd most receiving yards.
And that happens when you're trying to break in a rookie wide receiver.
Okay.
I can't find my stats, but the other thing I want to bring up is Trey Lance threw like 50% of his touchdowns in college to tight ends. So
And Kittle's never had more than 5 in a season, so I'm not that worried about it.
Trey Lance is going to unlock them. Let's let Bob talk.
Hold on, just real quick.
Joe.
Quick, then I will kick it to Bob. They broke in Deebo Samuel in 2019, and
still only had 80 targets.
And George Kittle had 5 touchdowns, 85 catches, over 1,000 yards, in 14 games. So, just a little confused on what's happening.
When you're
here.
missing one game, when you're missing 2 games, that can then turn to 5 or 6 games or half the season or more than half the season like it did last year. And now you're adding a 17th game to the schedule.
See, the thing I don't like about Josh is he's starting to turn into Skip Bayless. He just wants the clicks. He just wants people to listen to what
I'm presenting an argument. That's it.
No, you're presenting a terrible argument that stuff like Fox Sports and ESPN present to get a rise out of people and get clicks and views. And I know in your deepest heart of hearts you want to believe it, but you literally just said George Kittle's the best all-around tight end.
First off, I never said I believed it. I was just presenting an argument for why he's a risk.
You just proved my point. You just proved
I just said he's a risk. We're talking about a trust fall versus upside versus downside, right?
Bob,
that's what we're talking about.
Bob, talk. He just proved my point. Bob, talk.
All right, so let me just throw out consistency numbers. Last 3 years, 75, 79, 81. He did only miss 2 games in 2019 and 2018. Injured or not, the man toughs it out. Last year was so bad that he missed half the season. He only played 8 games. But as you guys said, he was on pace for 250 fantasy points, which would have beat 2019, just below 2018. He's definitely one of the best in the games. And watch the man play. I get it. He probably is getting some injuries from blocking, but this man barrels through people. And that will cause injuries too. When you're thrusting 280, 275 yards running at a 280-pound linebacker at full speed because you want to blast him off the field, that's going to cause some injuries to your legs as well. So I'm not saying that your ideas. Plus, I think Matthew Betts just gave you money just to put his name out here and brag about it. But no, I mean Kittle. Like you said, it's one of those things where do you want to pay up? Do you want to?
Well, and that's the point that I'm getting at.
I'm not saying it's not a good value, but it is a little bit more risky than maybe a Darren Waller or somebody like that. But
again, the point that I'm getting at, when you have the choice between those 3 guys, he's the riskier of the 3. That makes him less trustworthy, in my opinion. That's why I can't. That's why I don't put him as a trust.
Yeah.
That's the argument that I'm trying to make. That's it.
Games, he's going to be top 3. He's not going to pass Kelsey. Nobody's going to pass Kelsey.
Nope. So
if you're going to draft somebody that high, you might as well just draft Kelsey in late first round and just get it over with because it's going to be worth it. If Kittle could fall to the 3rd or 4th, I may be more interested, but not in a second. Because I'm going to take Kelsey in 1 if I'm going to be that excited about getting a tight end. I'm not going to go, 5 picks later, I'm going to take Kittle. No, I'm going to take Kelsey. And then if I don't want to take Kittle, then I'm going to wait to round 3 or 4 to take Waller or I'm just going to wait till rounds 8 and 9 and take Tanyan and Logan Thomas back to back and not have to worry about it.
Waller's the one that always throws the interesting wrinkle in this because it seems like the fantasy world is just waiting for Waller to fall off and he just keeps crushing it.
Right.
And you're absolutely right that if I know I can land Waller in round 3, I'll skip Kittle in round 2. Right. But I don't know if that's going to keep happening with Waller is the issue.
Right. It depends. And with so many leagues now being tight end premium, then all of a sudden things just change drastically anyway. So, okay.
If George Kittle catches 2 more balls for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns last year, he's tight end 11.
How many touchdowns does that put him at for the season, Joe?
That would put him at 4, and he's still tight end 11 through 8 games. 8 games, he's tight end 11.
Yeah. When did Brandon Ayuk finally get going?
He would have. Can you give me a second here? He would have outplayed Hunter Henry, who played a full season. He would have been 2 points shy of Noah Fant, who is going in the close to the top 8 this year, might be top 7. He's literally. All it takes is literally 2 catches for a yard and 2 touchdowns for him to be a top 12 tight end, and he played half the season.
Okay, cool. So you want to spend a 4th round, second round pick on somebody who's only playing 8 games?
I don't buy high on tight ends.
Well, that's the point I'm getting at. That's the point I'm getting at. Like, you laid out the argument. Yeah, I'm not saying he's not a good tight end. I never once said he wasn't good. I'm saying, can you trust him? and there's a valid argument that you can't. That's it.
But couldn't you make the same argument that Ayuk got his numbers because Kittle wasn't playing?
Can't you also make the argument that Deebo Samuel's injury prone as well? So Deebo Samuel.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I mean, I think Deebo's better as a second receiver. I have him as my upside because he's going 3 rounds later than Ayuk. But I trust Ayuk because I've seen what Kyle Shanahan does with an ex-wide receiver. And Brandon Ayuk displayed those traits last year without George Kittle.
Sure. All I'm saying is your upside is injury prone. So why is your downside? Like, it doesn't make sense. George Kittle's injury.
One is going in the 2nd round. The other's going in the 9th. That's why.
Yeah. By the rules of this weird game we've created, you can't really call George Kittle an upside.
Yeah, no.
So for me, it's either downside or trust fall, and I don't trust him.
You could have just left him off the list, jerk.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make for an entertaining show, Ryan. Come on.
Come on, Ryan. It's all about the clicks.
That's right, as Joe pointed out.
I hate people that don't believe in their arguments, and that truly kind of pissed me off. Like, believe in your argument if you're going to bring.
I believe in the argument. I've stated
don't.
again. I believe in the argument. I'm not saying he can't and or won't finish as a top 3 tight end because you laid it out. He can do that in 8 games. I get it. But there's risk. That's the point. There is risk. Go ahead, Bob.
Bob.
Can we talk about Raheem Mostert?
Sure.
Please.
So last year I had a man crush on him beyond belief. And he let me down mostly due to injury. He started off with 2 straight great clutch games right at the beginning of the year. Couldn't stay healthy. They get rid of Coleman and McKinnon. So they basically have Jeff Wilson and a bunch, and I know they drafted a rookie, but
Wilson's
Jeff
hurt.
Wilson's out.
Jeff Wilson's hurt.
It's a curse
I'm
to
like,
put on a 49ers.
I'm just giddy to get him as my running back 3.
Really?
Because I think if he can stay healthy, which again, here we go with we're back on the health kick. I think Mostert really is one of the most talented running backs by far on that team. He has incredible speed, incredible agility. He's shown these bursts of busted off 80-yard runs. Anybody else? I know Ryan's got him a downside. So Brian, I mean,
well, you hit it on the head. If I could get him as my running back 3, I'd love him. But he's going in the 4th round as an RB2 right now, and there's no way I can touch him at that price.
Well, that's weird because on the Football Guys site, his ADP consensus is 30.
And that's where ADPs are just all over the place right now.
Yeah, so. Now maybe you've been in drafts that he's went higher than that. I just, I mean, around that, you've got guys like, Gordon, James Robinson, Mike Davis, Edmonds, Fournette. I mean, all of them could have some potential. I mean, I like Mike Davis there as well. I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of back in on Mostert this year because I feel like, wow, now I can get him later. But the mock drafts I've done, he's went later, but I think I've either probably – he was because I was probably I've been loading up on running backs first 3 rounds because I've kind of been middle of the pack. So like that number 6 spot, I'm getting like Kamara, and then I'm coming back with like Aaron Jones, and then grabbing a Montgomery or somebody like that, or CEH, Dobbins, one of those kind of people. So I'm kind of just trying that scenario and then see what comes later. So I really haven't had the opportunity to really get Mostert yet or be in the position that Mostert would fall to me as my running back 3. But, I mean, if he could be there, I'm kind of okay with that. And it sounds like you guys are pretty much into it too. So that's
RB3. Absolutely.
Okay.
I honestly wouldn't even touch him as my RB3. I think it's a pretty telling sign when you're spending 2 draft picks on running backs and a guy that you really didn't even want to pay to be a starter. That doesn't really instill a lot of confidence in me from a fantasy perspective. I'm not denying the talent. I believe it. He's got the burst. He has the yards per carry, and they have a good offensive line. And he's going to get first crack at it because he's the veteran. But I think that could come crashing down very quickly.
This 1 year, though. Like, I see those draft picks as, okay, we're getting Trey Lance, so here's future quarterback first year. Get 2 running backs that's going to come up, next year. And you've got Ayuk, you've got Samuel, you've got a lot of youth right here on this offense. So let's get some guys, especially probably with Wilson hurt. They got rid of McKinnon and Coleman. So my thought was those draft picks are kind of like, okay, there's our future. Well, obviously, Mostert, it's your job to lose. If you get hurt, you're going to Wally Pip your ass right off the court, off the field, and you'll never see yourself again, never see you on the field again. But I don't know. That's kind of why I'm like, okay, I'm not worried about those running backs picks because I think that's the building of the future for San Francisco. But that's my.
Raheem Mostert, according to Fantasy Pros, is going literally as the first RB3 off the board at running back 25.
God, he's all over the place because I was looking at, and then I went to Underdog, and he's in the 7th round as the RB30. So it's just crazy.
Yeah. So I guess it just depends, and I think it's going to be like that all year. I think you'll be able to get him late. I mean, if somebody grabs him earlier than that, that's just somebody just has more of a man crush than I do. But
well, let's end it on the would you rather for your RB3.
Let's do it.
What else is more fitting? I am not, since he's the first RB3, I'm just going to go from below because I'm just going to go on a hunch and say everyone would rather Kareem Hunt over Raheem Mostert.
Yes.
And now this might be a coin toss, but James Robinson over Raheem Mostert, I would imagine.
I would still take James Robinson over.
Yeah, I think I'm doing Robinson. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one's pretty. And to add to that, Kareem Hunt and James Robinson are going 2 rounds before Raheem Mostert. So the argument is pointless.
There's your tier break, apparently.
Yeah.
Well,
right. the tier break is Kareem Hunt is the middle of the 5th, James Robinson's top of the 5th, Raheem Mostert is end of the 6th.
Wow. So yeah. A lot of wide receivers and quarterbacks going there.
Big tier break. You could probably sprinkle into like TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah,
someone's a Falcons fan, Kyle Pitts, a couple of those like Lamar Jackson probably going around that round as well. So yeah, that's the tier break here. So your RB3 is literally RB3 is the tier break here. Like your 1s and 2s kind of mesh. Antonio Gibson's going 18 overall, Mixon's going 19 overall, and that's 12 and 13. So those are your mesh. This is the cutoff here. So Raheem Mostert's 25. Would you rather Raheem Mostert as your RB3 or Melvin Gordon as your RB3? Bob?
I'll take Gordon, but I damn sure am going to have Javonte Williams a couple rounds later.
Well, Javonte Williams is going in the middle of the 11th round, so you'll have plenty.
Oh, that's coming up.
So interesting enough, again, I'm looking at Football Guys, so Brian, back me up.
Yeah.
They have Mostert going 77th. I'm sorry, they have Gordon going 72nd, and then they have Javonte Williams going 87th. So only basically a round and a half later. But
I'm probably partly to blame for that specific one because they bring in our consensus rankings, and I'm higher on Gordon this season just because I believe they'll run him.
Well, but this is all. So. I mean, but this is the one though ADP wise that uses MFL, RTS, Football Calculator, and then non PPR,
and then our rankings. Yeah, absolutely.
So. It's not all your fault, Ryan.
No, I know.
So
it's not all about you, babe.
Fantasy Pros uses ESPN.
Don't you know, Ryan Bob? It's always about Ryan.
It's always all about me.
Fantasy Pros uses ESPN, RT Sports, Fantrax, and FFC. So.
Okay.
I think what surprises me more is seeing Leonard Fournette at 29 and Ronald Jones at 34. And then Mostert's at 30. I feel like Mostert should be way ahead of both of them because they're going to, again, kind of shoot at each other's offensive stats. But
yeah. Ryan, I know your answer. It's Melvin Gordon is my presumption over Raheem Mostert. Yeah. Josh, I think it's the same with you. I am not drafting either of these guys, but I would probably go Melvin Gordon. I think Ryan and Josh have convinced me that Melvin Gordon will no longer have legs after this season. So he'll
have legs. I think it's just you're gonna see still like a 1A 1B type role. I mean, even if Williams is the presumed starter, like it seems to be like rumored here of late that they drafted Williams to trade up to get him. They're gonna start him right away. Gordon's still gonna have a role.
I think
Gordon, he played all 16 last year. Like, I mean,
I think Gordon's
still
better in a split backfield.
That's what he's played his entire career. So,
yep. Go ahead, Bob.
Here's the hot take. You can record this for later. Melvin Gordon gets traded before week 3.
Ooh.
And Javonte takes over. And that's why I think the beat writer said this past week, that by day 1, Javonte would be taking over. I think it's because Denver is going to make sure that Gordon and them both stay healthy. And about third week of August, I think somebody who needs, if somebody loses somebody like to an injury in the offseason, or, somebody like Atlanta, maybe Mike Davis isn't the answer, or Arizona, or somebody like that, maybe Miami. I could see somebody trading a pick for Gordon, especially if they think they have a shot at getting to the playoffs with it.
Maybe
I think Gordon will get moved, and Denver will get some picks or get somebody for the future, because Gordon's, I think,
Yeah.
I think
now you've sapped all the depth
value
in
for him.
Denver,
I think
there's nothing behind those two.
I think the Raiders could use another running back.
Yeah, right.
They need a big back so he can play guard.
Yeah, I think bringing in Kenyon Drake to back up Josh Jacobs just wasn't enough. I think you need another.
Yeah, right.
I
Can never have enough running backs.
Stud Power 5 conference running.
That's every fantasy player's motto, Bob.
Yeah. Or send them to New England, and it'll just join that mishmash of
there you go.
All right. So Raheem Mostert, we talked about Melvin Gordon. I'm gonna go. Bob is taking Raheem Mostert over Mike Davis very clearly from that last interaction, and I think Josh and Ryan are on the same train there.
I'll take 3 games of Raheem Mostert over 16 of Mike Davis. I want nothing to do with Mike Davis this year.
Yeah.
Well, I think Bob was gonna not agree with you. He just happened to bring him up. So.
Okay.
So Mike Davis, you got to remember, last year was 70% consistent when he took over for McCaffrey in a not a very good offense.
Yeah.
Playing with Atlanta, and you've got this powerhouse passing offense. Mike Davis plays at least 14 games. Mike Davis is top 24 running back in fantasy.
Mike Davis sucks. That's my answer to that question.
I just can't get with the
opportunity, baby. He's going to get touchdowns. He's going to get 10, 15 touches a game, rush for 60 yards, get a touchdown, catch a couple passes out of the backfield. I mean, I'm not saying that he's going to be like this amazing, top 12, but again, when you look at the rest, when you look at that 20 to 24, maybe even 26 or 7, there's just ATN is the 24th ranked in this here. We don't know what he's going to do. We don't know what Myles Gaskins really can do. I mean, he certainly had a very good season in Miami. We don't know. Chase Edmonds is at 25. Mike Davis is 26. James Robinson's 27. I mean, I don't see how, if Mike Davis, again, plays 14 games and is just part of the offense, not that he's going to get tons of touches, but just opportunity and having the talent around him, I don't see how he doesn't make top 24 in fantasy. If he stays healthy.
Let me put this out there. Now, obviously, this guy was 5 to 6 years younger than Mike Davis is right now.
Who, Mostert?
No. I'm sorry, not Mostert. So Devonta Freeman, same offense, not the same offense, but still same style, and still Matt Ryan. It's still basically most of the same players there. That offensive line was still garbage when Devonta Freeman was there. Still wasn't, and it still is today. But I feel like, Mike Davis 5'9", 221, Devonta Freeman 5'8", 206. They're the same height, and Davis has 15 pounds on him.
And they're all in his
quads.
all in the quad. And that's the thing is, like, I could, like, and I think I just, when Bob said, if he plays 14 games, it could be top 24. Devonta Freeman was, like, RB5. Like, the year that I'm specifically referring to is either 2015, 2016. Mike Davis won't do that. But if he could give you 70% of that year of Devonta Freeman, I feel like that's worth it according to Fantasy Pros, the 7th round, middle of the 7th round. Like, if you give me 70% of Devonta Freeman in the middle of the 7th round, I would take it.
Yeah. This is my issue with guys like Mike Davis, especially on teams like Atlanta that suck. I mean, by trading Julio, they basically have said, we're probably really going to suck this year, and they're playing for a top 5 draft pick. right?
That or they said Kyle Pitts isn't playing tight end. We're going to spread him out wide opposite.
Or that. They're still not going to win any more than 7 games.
7.
The point of getting it.
We don't care about wins. We care about fantasy points.
Yeah, Bob.
I'm getting there, Bob. I'm getting there. If they're not winning and Mike Davis still continues to be inefficient, because look, that's what he was in Carolina. He was inefficient. He was not good. It was, again, like Bob said, it was a product of volume. They didn't draft any running backs, but they have a couple undrafted guys in Javian Hawkins, in Caleb Huntley. If these guys end up making the team because they don't have any other depth, at that point, when does it become, let's see what we have with these guys and let's run with it, because we're obviously not winning. Like, Davis isn't going to help them win. And that's my problem with taking someone like a Mike Davis. And there's been the history of this, throughout fantasy. And I don't want to fall into that trap, even if it is my RB3 or my RB4 or whatever it may be. Like, that's just a roster clogger at that point.
How many games did Carolina win with Mike Davis?
5.
But we knew they were going to suck.
Okay.
And that's all he was a replacement. They weren't trying to find the next running back because they have McCaffrey. They just signed him to an extension.
Total points. Who
did they have behind him? They literally had nobody.
What the Falcons have nobody.
Atlanta have.
Situation in Atlanta.
Atlanta's
and they have a better passing game.
Atlanta looks like they could play in the ACC. Like, that's how bad they are.
Right. They're going to have to. So if Mike Davis rushes for 70 yards and scores a touchdown, that's 13 fantasy points. That's not great, but that's consistency, because if he gets over 11, he qualifies. So he could be 70% consistent, be top 20 in total points, and you're getting him in the 7th round. I mean, I think that's what
that team is going to throw the football 750 times this year, because they're not going to run.
But at some point, they're going to get stopped at the 5 or the 1.
Josh confirmed hates quads. That's what's confirmed.
That's what it is. It's a
call
quad
Luke
card.
Sawhawk.
He's playing the quad card is what he's playing.
Call Luke Sawhawk. Tell him that Josh hates the quad squad. So.
Here's what else could happen. Let's go the opposite way. By week 4, Mike Davis isn't being efficient. That's where Melvin Gordon goes.
Yeah, and that's I think that's why we expected you to pick Mostert over Davis, is because you brought that up. But you just it'll be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Because soft spot in my heart for this guy, because I called him a sleeper last year, and he kicked ass. And he didn't do exactly what I said. I said he'd have 85 catches. I think he had 70 something. Like, he had more runs than I expected. But Raheem Mostert, who is RB25, and again, this is not value. Who do you want as your RB3? Raheem Mostert or Nyheim Hines? Obviously, this is PPR. Bob.
I love Nyheim Hines. I had him on a lot of leagues last year, but I think I'm still going to go Mostert and get Hines as my RB4, because that's where he's going.
Exactly.
If not later. So I'm going to get both.
Sure, that's fair. Josh? Wait.
I'll take Hines, and then where Mostert is, I'll take a wide receiver. That's just my thought process.
I was about to say, thank you for playing the game, Josh. Bob, you found a loophole. Not a fan. Ryan?
Mostert.
Really? Okay, all right, fine. Nyheim Hines, baby.
I think Taylor starts to eat into Hines' work while Mac starts to eat into Taylor's work. So,
yeah. I mean, Hines is running back 42, so you can literally get him.
Yeah.
Let's see.
After the 10, he's in double.
I'd say that's got to be 12th round, right?
Double-digit rounds.
Yeah. So Mostert's 77th, and Hines is 120. So yeah, you're 5 rounds later. So like I said, I can get him as my RB4, and I'm just as happy with that.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, again, yeah, it's obviously you could get both of them if you.
But yeah, you just have the soft spot for Hines.
The point is, who would you rather have?
Mostert.
Mostert is my RB3. Yes.
Right, well, the top row is going Hines, and we're taking with our pick in the 6th round. We're gonna take Deontay Johnson, who is going 3 spots ahead of Raheem Mostert. That's who. Or we'll take Kenny Golladay, who's going 4 spots ahead.
Crazy.
Like I said, take the wide receiver instead.
Or we could take Tyler
And that's
Lockett,
what I've been doing
Ryan.
because, again, I've been drafting 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds anyway. So
I did that in one league last year, made it to the championship. So
Yeah, I think that's going to be a viable strategy again this year.
I think it just depends where you pick. I think if you get late first, you're going to struggle to get a good 3rd running back at the end of the 3rd round.
Yeah.
I will preface, I had the 3rd pick in that draft. I had Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, and my receivers were Robert Woods and DK Metcalf.
Well, if I end up probably 8th or 9th or back, I'm going Kelsey in the 1st round in every draft this year. So
yeah, no, I've done that.
I don't draft tight ends high, so don't ask me a question about that because I'm going to advise you against it. That's just simply
Kelsey or stream the position.
Yeah, literally Kelsey or stream the position. Like I don't want to spend that high capital. I know, obviously, we know Travis Kelce is going to be the tight end 1. It's not a question, but I'd rather take 2 RB1s and take it blows my mind. Jonnu Smith is going in the 14th round. I don't get it, and we'll get to him when we get to the Patriots in 2 weeks. But that just blows my mind, and I'll tell you why in 2 weeks. It was going to be next week, but Joe has a game. So we're going to have Hitman from the Fantasy Footballers on next week with your host, Hutchinson Brown.
Nice.
And that is kind of the cue to the end of our show. But, Bob, before we wrap up, first off, thank you.
Yes,
this
thank
was
you.
A ton of
Been
fun.
fun.
Brought out the old spreadsheet, which I think is a first on this show. So I love it. And before we wrap up here, I talked about it really quick in the beginning of the show. The Expo, which I believe is happening the weekend of August 14th in Canton, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us
Birthday
a little bit about
weekend.
that.
Oh, gosh.
No one cares about that.
Him and Stephanie Smalls, great.
Oh,
White
Stephanie's
claws,
birthday's that
everybody.
weekend too?
The
Yeah.
15th on the day of the
There will be no alcohol left in Stark County.
No, I told people, I'm like, prepare your livers.
I was going to say, I hope you got a good distributor, for the.
Yeah, trust me, I'm going to meet with the lady at the hotel the week before to go over all the details of, the event
Like
stuff.
these people all have drinking
problems.
problems.
You better go to your local White Claw distributor and get about 40 cases of this shit
I was gonna
because.
say, yeah.
Oh, that's all Steffi. I don't drink White Claw. So
He drinks.
No, I don't. I mean, I have, but yeah, I'm more of a Captain Morgan guy. So
Yes, I drink rum.
It's all gross. Buy a handle of vodka. Buy a 12-pack of seltzer. You'd save money and you can make it yourself.
So by the end of the
exact
expo,
thing.
Ryan, you're gonna be like Johnny Depp and be like, "Why is all the rum gone?"
Why is the rum always gone?
All right. So what I've gotten from this expo is it's happening on Josh and Steffi's birthday on on the weekend of August 14th, and everyone's an alcoholic. Bob, what else is going to happen at the expo?
Oh yeah, then there's going to be some fantasy football stuff going on, but that's really irrelevant.
That's tertiary. We don't care about that stuff. We want more. All
right, so so for those of you who are thinking about attending the event, let me first off just say you have to come in for the weekend. So be there Friday night, Saturday night, and you might as well say Sunday night because the expo is not over till 4. We'll probably have an after party somewhere for some reason, just because.
Probably you definitely will have an after party. That is a fact.
I'm sure there will be. Yeah, because I'll definitely need. No, I'll never mind. So Friday night, come in early. We're going to go down the street. There's a couple bars down the street we can walk to, hang out there. Saturday, we've got so many things going on. So John Lobb is doing the first ever Kings Classic College Fantasy Football Draft. That is happening in one of the boardrooms there from, I think, 10 to 2. So if you're a really big college football Devy kind of fan, make sure you check that out. You can just come into the room and watch these guys draft. It's going to be a great time. I think it's noon is draft night out, which is weird because it's noon. But anyway, go to draftnightout.com, sign up and register for one of the leagues. It's going to be awesome. It's only like $30 to enter. You'll be put in, a 12-team league. They're doing it at the Canton Brewing Company, which is, again, right down the street, big basement, lots of craft brews, food. They're going to have raffling off of prizes. I think they've got a Russell Wilson helmet signed, a signed Kyler Murray, and a signed Calvin Ridley jersey of the 3 things that I know of. So again, even if you win that, it's worth $30. So come do that. Sign up at draftnightout.com. Leagues are going quick, so make sure you get in on that. So that's Saturday then. For those who are coming in, obviously just get the VIP ticket package for the weekend. It gets you a Hall of Fame ticket to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And there, Drew Davenport and us will all be there drafting for the Kings Classic in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the Gold Jacket Lounge on the second floor. So all the big names will be there: Brad Evans, Mike Clay, Andy Behrens, Dave Richards, Bob Harris, Michael Fabiano, you name them, they're all going to be there. So we do that from 10 to 4. Then Saturday night, we have this huge party being put on by fantasyaffair.com. Brian, and I always forget his last name, it's very difficult to say, but Brian is like a professional bartender and has been for years in Vegas and now out in Hawaii. He is getting hooked in with distributors, cigar distributors. Captain Morgan girls, I think, are going to come pass out stuff. It's going to be.
There you go, Ryan, right up your alley.
Yeah, so massive party, all kinds of giveaways, some prize stuff that we haven't even announced that's going to happen at that event. So that's Saturday night starting at 7 o'clock in the hotel bar, restaurant. So you don't even have to drive. You just hang out there, pass out somewhere. Then the next day, oh, by the way, we're doing an expo. That is from 10 to 4 on Sunday. So make sure you come for that. Again, we'll have 45 booths of every different genre, site, products. We have a main stage that we're going to be doing all kinds of presentations, draft strategies, an expert mock draft, all kinds of super cool stuff. From 10 to 11, we are planning to put what I call the Mount Rushmore ×2 on stage. So we're literally going to have Andy Behrens, Dave Richards, Brad Evans, Mike Taglier, Bob Harris. All these folks are going to be on stage from 10 to 11. We're calling it the pregame event. And it's going to be an interview with the MC that's going to be asking them their favorite sleepers and busts and all that kind of stuff. Take questions from the audience, but basically it's going to be the best of the best. We're right on stage. Never been, probably like this together. You can ask them all questions at the same time. I'm sure it'll be a blast. So make sure you're there early for that. It starts at 10 o'clock. And then, like I said, after that, we'll probably be exhausted. Our livers will be shot. Our kidneys will be malfunctioning, and then we'll start drinking again.
Boom.
There it is. Don't miss it.
If you want to have a mediocre weekend.
Mediocre weekend, yeah. Go to the fantasyfootballexpo.com to get your ticket packages. We'll get you a link to the local hotels, get you a discount. That one is sold out. Well, it's not sold out. It's sold out at a discounted rate. Yeah. Some people are paying up to $200 a night just to stay there because they want to be there and they don't want to miss it. You can go to another hotel 10 minutes away for $129. So I'm just saying.
And Club Fantasy.
It's not a big town. You can get across one side of the city of Canton in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's really.
And for those listening on our show, most of Club Fantasy will be there. We'll be talking about our Women of Fantasy stuff.
Right.
It's a great event. I went in 2019.
Ryan in the group's going to be on stage and talking about that as well.
Yep. And I went in 2019 when Bob debuted the event. We had a blast then. It sounds like it's 10 times bigger this year. It's just based on how much fun we had last time. I can't imagine what this weekend is going to be like. It's going to be fantastic. Check it out.
Yeah.
Ryan,
looking forward to it.
Ryan says most because some of us have jobs.
Yeah.
And we don't.
I
actually don't.
He doesn't. Literally, he doesn't.
Well,
and then the one job I do have is with football guys, and he's like, "Hey, you're going to be at this event, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like in my backyard. I'll be there."
Like, yeah. Do you live anywhere near Ken? Yes, in it.
Yes.
Are you going to be at this fantasy football event in the industry that you work in? Yes.
In the town that you live in.
In the town you live in, yes.
In the town you live in, yes.
Yeah. People are coming from Hawaii to go to this. Are you going to go to it? Who lives in Kenton?
Yeah, someone. So some of us have to work. So
we'll have fun with that.
Yeah,
I have a feeling Josh and I might have a better weekend.
Yes. Well, Joe, you're going to see all the pictures. You're going to hear all the stories, and next year you're going to take vacation and go to it.
There you go.
Here's the thing, Bob. I can take vacation whenever I want for my job.
Right.
I work for a baseball team.
Well, that helps.
our hours are amazing, but we play all throughout the summer because we're a summer league team, and the weekend of the Expo happens to be the last weekend of games we have. That Thursday is our last home game, but we have an event that we hold on that Saturday.
Ouch.
So,
yeah, it happens. Bob, thank you so much. This show was a blast.
This has been fantastic.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. And it was fun to talk fantasy. A lot of these, again, nothing against the shows I've been on, but most of them want to talk about the Expo. It's like, well, okay, that's cool, but I thought we wanted to talk about fantasy. But we didn't know. So.
Bob,
by the way, if anybody's interested, there's this 2021 Fantasy Football Consistency Guide that you can buy on Amazon.
Pimp yo shit,
since you heard me reference it.
Yeah. But the Expo's like not even that cool. That's why we didn't really
stop it.
That's why we didn't really talk about it.
You're going to have serious FOMO in August, Joe. I can feel it already.
I got to tell you a funny story. When I first announced it, and again, I didn't know this Stephanie Smallstrom and who she was or what she was or what anything about her. This was back in March. And she didn't know anything about me, obviously, which is fine. And when I posted about the Expo and the hype started buzzing, Stephanie said, "Who's this Bob Lund guy? Is this guy like the Ja Rule of
Fire
fantasy
Festival.
football? And it's going to be like Fantasy Football Expo Fire?" And I didn't even get a chance to respond. And then the Ball Blast girls chimed in and just went off on her. They're like, "How dare you question Expo?" And the funny thing is now she's all in. She's excited to be here. But I can't wait to bring it up to her because I'm sure she kind of forgot about it, but I didn't.
She forgot, but I didn't.
Right.
Good line, Bob. Yeah,
anyway.
No, that's bummed to be missing it. Obviously would love to be on stage with these two idiots talking about women of fantasy football because, despite Josh handling everything, he's not the best on the microphone. So, I gotta be the one to drive the show. It's okay, Josh. It's all you and Hutch next week.
I'm gonna be stumbling on that mic on the stage and be like, I don't know what to do or say. I'm so hungover. I just turned 38 years old. So,
oh boy, there you go.
Man,
I'll take care of it.
Yeah,
I'll let Ryan do all the talking.
It must suck getting old. Damn. Dude,
38 is cute.
My
back. Oh, yeah.
Bob,
Joe, how old are you?
Bob, let me tell you, my back at 22 years old.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Oh, does it hurt?
Can't even imagine. Yeah.
Does it hurt? I'm walking around the ballpark taking photos. I'm hunched over like a granny. Oh, man.
I would tell you how much my prostate hurts at 58, but I don't know.
Listen, I haven't had the finger up the butt treatment yet, but I'm not looking forward to it. No, that was a good talk. That was a good talk. Everyone here understands the joke but me because I have yet to experience it.
Yeah.
And now I feel left out.
Well, when you get it taken out, you don't have that either. I don't have to worry about that either anymore.
Woo! Attaboy, Bob. All right. What a way to end the show. Okay.
Yeah, that's
we talk about prostates as we end. And with that.
That's a no pun intended first. In 4 years, we've never talked about our prostates.
Never talked about prostates? Oh,
no. Never
I got an hour.
Wow. What a way to end the show. All right. Next week, we have Hutchison Brown back, the Young Fantasy Mind. He's filling in for me as I have a game to work. 6 games in 5 days, ladies and gentlemen. Please pray for me and the entire front office that we have to do all those. We also have Mike Wright from the Fantasy Footballers, Hitman, as some people may know him better.
Wow, that's much bigger than me. That's for sure.
Special start time also. We're going to be going on live at 6 p.m. Eastern. So an hour earlier next Wednesday.
Oh, maybe
I don't do that very often, if ever. So
I don't know why we did it. It's just Mike. Like
I know I should have made him go for 7 because he was so wrong about Tyler Higbee last year.
Oh, nothing special. We called him out. Like he was wrong about Woods. He was wrong about Higbee. Like we obviously know more. We do better things. Like why are we moving for him? He should move for us. But next week they're talking Chargers, Vikings, and the Cardinals. We saved the Patriots for the week after because me. And obviously that's my team, and we like to have each other's on for our teams. Josh obviously being the Eagles, Ryan being nobody. It's just his fantasy team. It's his favorite.
That's right.
Team.
Only team that matters.
Yeah, that's the only team that matters is Ryan's fantasy
teams. You know you have more than one, Ryan.
But remember, next week, an hour earlier, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll be in the chat for at least the first 30 minutes talking smack, so I'm excited. Bob, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
And
Thanks
if you
so
haven't
much.
already signed up for the Fantasy Expo, go to thefantasyexpo.com. Just like
Football Expo.
Fantasy Football Expo, apologies. It's like the Ohio State University.
That's right.
Because
that and Fantasy Football Expo is actually taken in for sale, and they won like $50,000 for the site. So I'm like, oh, I'll just put the in front of it. That's perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
is that right? It's like
I mean, it's kind of on brand since it's in Ohio, right?
Right.
Like,
That's what I figured.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
Get all the goofies from Columbus to be excited about it because they think I named it after their college.
yeah. When in reality, it was just a custody battle. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, that website domain was only $19, and the other one was
that's
$50,000. So
That
it was
win.
What's 50 grand? Aaron Rodgers can find 93,000. Like, what does it matter at this
Right.
point? All right. So we'll see you guys next week for Joshua Hudson, Bob Lung, Ryan Weiss, and myself, Joe Zolo. You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Next week, special start time, 6 p.m. Eastern with Mike, from the Fantasy Footballers, also known as Hitman, hosted by the young fantasy mind Hutchinson Brown, who I believe just surpassed 1,000 followers today
you did.
on
Good for
Twitter.
him.
So shout out to Hutch for absolutely killing it alongside him and Luke Sahawk, who we'll have on when the Pittsburgh Steelers, a look inside preview, comes up. These two young guys are killing it. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football, and we will see you next week at an earlier start time at 6 p.m. Don't forget, we'll see you then. Bye!